Hey everybody, so it's time for a book haul. It's time for me again to do my best to make your TBR explode. And I may have already helped do that a little bit, but today I'm here to do it some more, and I hope you enjoy it. So, let's get started. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you all doing today? As always, I hope you're happy, I hope you're healthy, I hope you're safe, and of course I hope you're reading an amazing book or two or three or four. The weather's really strange right now in Northern California. It's cloudy and sort of gray in the morning, and then it burns off and it's about 80 in the afternoon. So I am home and it's gray outside, which is perfect reading weather or perfect talk about book weather. So that's what we're here to do today. I cannot wait to tell you about this stack of books. So get out your pen, get out your paper, get out your Goodreads, however you keep track of your TBR. If you are so able, I encourage you to order these books from your local independent bookstore, or if you're a library user, get your library to get you a copy as soon as possible. Because you know, both independent bookstores and our libraries, they need us now more than ever. The first book I want to tell you about, I think just came out, and that is The Kingdoms of Savannah by George Dawes Green. This is out from Celadon Books. Clearly takes place in Savannah, Georgia. And what it says here is that, the whole town is sort of gathered at this local event, and then within hours there will be a murder, and the sort of partner of the man who has been murdered has disappeared. And this detective is put on it. Her name is Morgana Musgrove. If that is not a name for the ages, I don't know what else is. And she is going to investigate this murder, but she's got her own sort of, let's just call it issues, and she has a very sort of rough relationship with her 4 children. But as the investigation goes on, as things come together, the children are sort of brought into the investigation, and secrets are found out about sort of the upper class of Savannah. So that's The Kingdoms of Savannah by George Dawes Green. This is out from Celadon Books. Now, you can get your hands on it right now, because if you can believe it, July is over. July is over, which I cannot believe I'm saying. The next book that I'm going to tell you about came out in the middle of July as well, and that is Dark Earth by Rebecca Stott. This came out from Random House. I just think that cover is quite lovely, actually. This is a fantasy novel, and it's set, well, one of those fantasy novels, but it's also sort of set in the past for us. It's 500 AD. There's a pair of sisters, Isla, I believe, Isla and Blue, and they live in the shadows of this once great city in this little community called Ghost City. And they have been sort of banished there because it's believed that their father, who was a very famous blacksmith, may have used dark magic in creating his very famous swords. But the father dies, and they are sort of brought in to this world where they look like they're going to be taken into enslavement by the local warlord, and they don't know what to do, so they run off, and they wind up joining a group of I want to call them rebels, but I'm not sure that that's exactly the right word. But it's a secret society of women that's living among the ruins. And if they're going to sort of survive being hunted and, through this new life, they're going to have to sort of get in touch with sort of not only the way that they defend themselves, but maybe the magic of their foremothers in order to fight back. So that's Dark Earth by Rebecca Stott, and this is out now from Random House. Okay, the next book I'm going to tell you about, I'm really excited about this one. I have not, if I'm thinking in my brain, I don't believe I've ever read any translated literature from Taiwan. And that is what Ghost Town by Chen is. This is, again, this is Europa editions. It comes out in October 2022. It is translated from the Taiwanese by Daryl Stirk. So this book starts sort of with this idea. The main character, Chen, is the son of a very traditional Taiwanese family. He has 7 sisters, and he's like the prodigal son, the one that the son has finally arrived. However, he struggles within his family because he wants to live his life as a gay man. So he leaves his family in his small little town and goes to Berlin, Germany. And the book opens with him getting out of prison for having murdered his boyfriend. if that is not enough to get you to just at least flip through the first few pages, and he returns home to this tiny town in Taiwan. Now, his parents have passed, his 7 sisters, some are dead, some are going through their own struggles, many are married, and he sort of doesn't find a place for himself like he thought he would. And as he is acclimating back to this, we get the story of how his boyfriend died and was murdered and what that was all about, and then also sort of what's torn his family apart. I think that sounds so good. And so that's Ken Chen's Ghost Town out from Europa, again, translated from the Taiwanese by Daryl Stirk. And this comes out in October, October 25th, 2022. Okay. I'll probably throw that one in another book haul just to make sure it's on people's radar, because I think it sounds really, really good. The next book I'm going to tell you about is a new release of a archived novel of sort of a cult classic literary superstar, and that is Toad by Katherine Dunn. Most of us know Katherine Dunn from Geek Love, one of those books I think that many of us have read, and so many people love, but it always sort of stays below that line of being like canonical. Is that the right word? You know what I mean. It's very much there's cult classics. This is one of them. Well, Toad is right up my alley because it is a story about a woman who she's had quite a life, and then she sort of moves off the grid, and really the only people she sees is she has a pet goldfish, she has a pet toad, and the man who comes once a month to sell her cleaning supplies. And she's sort of living off the grid, and she's getting to this time to reassess, or what's the word I'm looking for? Reminisce is probably a better word, about all of the stuff that happened in her life, about her college days, about past romances and crazy things that happened to her. And I believe that this is like an ode to Katherine Dunn's time in college. Let me see if I can get it. She went to Reed College. So I think it's sort of that. It's probably going to have a little bit of that pseudo-biographical fiction-y thing going on. But I think it sounds absolutely fun. You know how I am. I'm all about people moving out in the middle of nowhere and just enjoying themselves and getting to know themselves even better. So that's Toad by Katherine Dunn. This is coming out from MCD by FSG, and it is coming out on November 1st. And that's a lot for me, but I'm super excited about this one. Okay. Next is probably there's a couple of big names in this pile, but Julian Barnes may be one of the biggest. And his new novel, Elizabeth Finch, is coming out from Knopf, and it comes out in August of 2020. Let's see if they have an actual date on here. No, it just says August. This is a slim little novel. Julian Barnes wrote Sense of an Ending. He wrote... what's the other book that totally blinking? He wrote Sense of an Ending, which I love. I love Flaubert's Parrot. The History of the World in 10.5 Chapters is so good. Arthur and George is so good. I mean, he's a literary giant, right? And this book is about a professor, Elizabeth Finch, and an unrequited crush a student in her class has on her, and sort of the effect she has on him even after she is passed. I am trying my darndest not to read too much into it in the back, just because I've always loved Julian Barnes and I love being surprised by him. But I love sort of the quiet nature of his novels. He has actually a really good sense of humor often. And he won the Man Booker Prize, right? Did he win the Man Booker for Sense of an Ending? My Man Booker historical knowledge is a little weak there, but super excited about Elizabeth Finch by Julian Barnes out from Knopf, and it comes out in August. So right around the corner, literally like tomorrow is when August starts. The next book I want to tell you about is actually a book from a press I don't think I've actually done a ton from, and that's Blackstone. So thank you very much, Blackstone, for sending me this. And this is called Man-Made Constellations by Misha, Lazzara, and I'm going to hold that up there for you. And it is coming out on August 9th, so right around the corner here. And this is the story. Okay, so this is the story of a young woman. She feels caught in this Midwestern town, and she sees an ad in the newspaper for a free car. So she's very, very anti-capitalist. So she will only pay for things that she can't get for free. So this is sort of like a windfall for her. So she goes and she meets the woman who's giving away the car, and she has a sort of a caveat. You can have the car, but you have to search for my long lost son that I haven't seen. I believe it's like in a decade, and I haven't seen him, and you can have the car. So as she's sort of contemplating that, she also has to get the car sort of up and running. So she starts to create a relationship with a local mechanic, and though they're very different people, they have an unmissable chemistry. And so you have that part of it going on. And then we also get the story of the son who has been missing, and he's sort of adrift in his own world, and he has very passionate feelings about his mother and his father, and he starts going on a journey cross country to sort of figure things out as well. You know, it's all going to come together. I think that this sounds really, really fun. So that's Man-Made Constellations by Misha Lazzara, out from Blackstone on August 9th, 2022. Support the local, do support your local independent bookstores, but also support your independent presses, because, you know, they put out some amazing work. And the Booker long list that was just announced. Many of those books were small presses too. So they're producing books that are getting noticed around the world. The next book I want to tell you about is Moth by Melody Razak. Let me hold that up for you, because it takes a moment to realize how beautiful this cover is, because if you just look at it, it looks just like a word, but then you go, oh. And this comes out in August as well. Do I have a date? I don't have an exact date, so anytime now. And this is a family saga. It's an Indian family and their trials and tribulations through partition. Partition was in 47. Don't quote me on that. Sometimes years are not always in my head. But we're in Delhi in 1946. 14-year-old Amma is soon to be married, despite her parents' fear that she is far too young. But India is in perilous times right now, and they're about to earn their independence from Britain, and in its wake, political unrest is sort of rippling throughout the country. The conflict threatens to unravel the rich tapestry of Delhi, a city where different cultures, religions, and traditions have coexisted for centuries. The solution is partition, which will create a new, wholly Muslim sovereign nation of Pakistan, carved from India's northwest shoulder. Given the uncertain times, Alma's parents, intellectuals who teach at the local university, pray that the marriage will provide Alma with stability and state safety. And it goes on from there, and it's a family drama set against this background. I've read a number of novels sort of set in this time period, and there's always that underlying tension, and if the author gets it right, it's sort of like your heart's pounding the whole time. I'm really excited for this one. So this is Moth by Melody Razak, and this is out from Harper, and again, it comes out in August of this year, which is right around the corner. I am trying to talk a little bit more quickly than I usually do because it's a big pile and I don't want this video to be so long. A book that is out on shelves, and I saw it, and then Europa was nice enough to send me a finished copy. It just came in the mail, and oh my goodness, how beautiful is this book. I'm going to caveat that in a minute. This is called The Missing Word by Concita de Gregorio. It is translated from the Italian by Clarissa Botsford. I mean, take a moment. And when I posted this on Instagram, I said this beautiful little book holds a very dark heart and story. So this is a story of a woman who her husband, and she has twin daughters. Their life seems perfect until one day the marriage ends and the husband takes the daughters away. And he settles down, and days later, he's by himself, and no one knows what happened to the daughters. And she has to investigate, where did her girls go? There's no trace of them. And yeah, here's the thing. This is based on a true story. A number of people, when I posted the arc of this one, said that it is heart-wrenching and dark and crazy and beautifully done, but also very dark. So that's why I think that this cover is perfect. It sort of lulls you into the sense of security. So that's The Missing Words by Concita de Gregorio, out from Europa, again translated from the Italian by Clarissa Botsford. Okay. Another book that is out is actually a paperback copy of Wole Soyinka's Chronicles from the Land of the Happiest People on Earth. This is out from Vintage. As you know, he's the winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature. This book takes place in an imaginary version of Nigeria. Someone is selling body parts that have been stolen from a hospital of the main character, Dr. Menka's, for the use of these body parts in ritualistic practices. And so Dr. Minka goes to his friend who is sort of trying to raise his place in society. He is about to take on a post, I believe, at the United Nations, but now it seems like someone is determined to sort of not allow that to happen, and they don't know why. Is it a close friend? Is it a close enemy? Is it a person with a lot of power? Can someone do this to him? So that is Chronicles from the Land of the Happiest People on Earth by Wole Soyinka, and this is out from Vintage, and you can get your hands on it now. It's a bit of a chunkster. I was going to say the print is a little bit tiny. I've gotten to that point in my life where I do look at print and go, okay, this may be one that Russell needs either to buy digitally so he can make it bigger or break out the magnifying glass. Can you believe I'm saying that? But the next book I'm going to tell you about is exactly the same. The font is so tiny. But Emergency, a pastoral novel by Daisy Hillard out from Astra House, it sounds phenomenal. So this is one of those books, like one of those meditative books. And I believe when I was reading the blurb on this one, it was like, if you like Rachel Cusk or if you like Jenny Offal, this sort of falls within that scope. And it is a novel about this. It's a woman, the narrator. I believe she remains nameless. I'm not 100% sure on that. She's in lockdown, during COVID lockdown, and she starts to contemplate her life in the 1990s, her childhood in rural Yorkshire, and she starts to remember stories, and she starts to think about her village life and all of that kind of stuff. And it says, Hildyard invokes the bygone pre-internet world of her school days, whose I'm sorry, I'm totally blanking. Have you guys ever noticed when sometimes when they'll put a word and they'll split the word and put a hyphen in it, and you have to read on the two lines? Do you ever have trouble sometimes figuring out what that word's going to be? That's me right now. But it signals something far greater than fleeting youth. With urgent intimacy and emergency asks us to look at the essentials, the people who help define us, animals, locals, and global ecologies, and to consider what a slow disappearance of Hildyard's and our own native environment might mean for humanity at large. A requiem for the English countryside. I think it sounds beautiful, but I'm just going to hold that up there. That font's going to challenge my old eyeballs. So that is Emergency by Daisy Hillard, a pastoral novel out from Astra House. I believe this comes out very, very soon if it didn't just come out. But it's really pretty too. Again, I love when I look at a book and I'm like, you know what, I would take that as artwork. I would take that as artwork for my wall. The next book, I feel like this is sort of a turn for this author. Many of us fell in love with Joanna Cannon for when she wrote The Trouble with Goats and Sheep. We were all sort of enamored with that book. It was a big booktube book for quite some time. And and then out came, what was her last one? The Three Things About Elsie, which also we were all reading and talking about. And now we have A Tidy Ending by Joanna Cannon. This is out from Scribner here in the US. And one I just want to point out, so this woman, this amazing scarf, and then this cleaning bottle. Just the cover alone makes you want to read this book, right? So this is the story of Linda. She's lived a very, very quiet life. She's sort of in her house, vacuuming, cleaning, trying to figure out exactly where it went. It's a far cry from the glamorous life that she thought she was going to have. And then one day, all of a sudden, this magazine comes in through the mail chute for the previous occupant, a woman named Rebecca. Now, Linda is married. Her husband's name is Terry, and he's got his issues, as you imagine. He's not perfect, but all of a sudden he's working these weird hours and keeping on. And the same thing, at the same time that he's doing this, at the same time that sort of his whole schedule changes, a young woman goes missing in town. And now Linda has decided, well, what if she could only befriend Rebecca? I got to find Rebecca, right? And we got to become friends because that makes logical sense. And she thinks that if she does that, Rebecca's more glamorous life will rub off on her. But at the same time, that will also allow her an escape from thinking about what is Terry really up to when he is out and about at all these weird times. But I love the last line. It says, but the grass isn't always greener, and you can't change who you really are, and some secrets can't stay buried forever. So it's like Joanna kind of went a little murder mystery on us, just a little bit different. And I love it. I'm here for it. It got a starred, reviewed, and Publisher Weekly. So I'm super excited for a tidy ending by Joanna Cannon out here in the US from Scribner. I am still so obsessed with this cover. Okay, last but not least, talk about a cover that I'm obsessed with. So Catapult, thank you for sending me this. And this is Witches by Brenda Lozano. I mean, come on. Now, this book, it has a little bit more to it, so I'm going to have the book help me tell the story. So Paloma is dead, but before she was murdered, before she was even Paloma, she was a traditional healer named Gasper. Before she was murdered, she taught her cousin Feliciana the secrets of and the ceremonies known as Veledas, and about the language of the book that unlocked their secrets. Zoe, a journalist, is sent to report on Paloma's murder in her mountain village of San Felipe. There, she meets Feliciana, and the two women's lives twist around each other in a dance macabre. Feliciana tells Zoe the story of her struggle to become an accepted healer in her community, and Zoe begins to understand the hidden history of her own experience as a woman, finding her way into a hostile environment shaped by and for men. Weaving together two parallel narratives that mirror and refract each other, this extraordinary novel envisions the healer as storyteller and the writer as healer, and offers a generous and nuanced understanding of the world that can be turned violent and exultant, cruel and full of hope. So I think that sounds amazing. Oh, you know what? I apologize. This is translated, I believe, from the Spanish by Heather Cleary. Sorry, I didn't get that in there in the beginning. It's here on the cover too. So Catapult put the translator on the cover, as they should. Fantastic. And I just missed it. So that's Witches by Brenda Lozano, translated from the Spanish by Heather Cleary, and out from Catapult Books. And just take a moment again, that cover. Woo! Okay, I am not going to try to pick up this stack because it's 12 big and I know I will drop it. So, as always, if you're a Turn subscriber, I cannot do this without you. Thank you so very, very much. If you are new to my channel, I hope that you stick around. I hope you hit click, subscribe, click the bell. That's what I meant to say. And as always, I encourage you to read globally, shop locally, and until next time, I wish you happy reading. Bye, everyone.